rich and poor, urban and rural. The best way to prevent drug addiction and overdose is to prevent people from abusing drugs in the first place.
According to his own report that he commissioned, 142 people die of a drug overdose each and every day. Brad Melke, following the opioid conversation with President Trump yesterday. Good morning, Brad Melke.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
So the big news is that his commission wanted him to declare a state of emergency for this opioid epidemic. He chose not to. Why is that such a big deal?
Well, remember that declaring a state of emergency isn't just a sort of a public relations issue, right? I mean, it certainly sounds good and it focuses the nation's attention on something, but it has real consequences as well. When you declare a state of emergency, that unleashes a lot of federal dollars. It commands the attention of Congress. It empowers different cabinet members in the administration to do certain things. And so this opioid commission that the president empowered several months ago, they missed a couple of deadlines to put out this initial report. When they finally did, one of their core advisories was declare a state of a national emergency, get us the resources that this problem requires, and the administration decided not to. Tom Price basically said, the Health and Human Services Secretary, essentially said that the president has everything he needs, that Congress is certainly welcome to pass a bill to get more money to this, but they're not going to go ahead and make that formal declaration just yet.
So he's turned his back on his own commission's report? Is that safe to say?
Well, I mean, in that regard, yes. Now, the commission also made a few other recommendations that the president sounds like he is amenable to, this idea that prevention is really going to be the key here. He also said, he sort of went a step farther and said that he wants to see more drug prosecutions by the end of this year. They've actually been declining when you look at overall prosecutions over the last several years. He wants to see enforcement ramped up, also wants to see, of course, the supply of drugs, especially from Mexico, stemmed. That's part of his immigration platform right there. But the fact that he did not go ahead and declare this a national emergency was troubling to some of the states and municipalities that have said that this is just wreaking havoc on their communities.
Which is really interesting, because if you look at some of the worst and hardest hit areas of this epidemic, those are Donald Trump's cities, counties, and states.
I was going to say rural communities. He won New Hampshire as he went around the states talking about the dangers of the opioid epidemic. And just to give you a sense of the numbers, and now we have this from the president's own commission, 52,000 Americans died of overdoses. That was in 2015. They say it's only gotten worse since then. Chris Christie, he heads the commission. He says in terms of casualties, that's like a 9/11. That's like a September 11th attack every 3 weeks.
Pretty extraordinary stuff. So he had this commission. He said he wasn't going to accept the recommendations. And it seems like an awful lot of pomp and circumstance to reject his own study's findings.
Well, and I think that's because, he rejected this idea that they're going to declare a national emergency right now. What he seems wholeheartedly behind sort of giving the amount of attention publicly to this issue that he said he would during the campaign. Talking about prevention, remember that this is a president whose own brother died of addiction, in his case alcoholism, and he has said how hard it is to get people off of something once they're hooked. So this does seem to strike a personal chord with him. The question is how you sort of navigate the bureaucracy here and the dollars that different groups say they need. But at the end of the day, some people also worry that it's sort of a blank check when you declare something like a drug war a national emergency that can go on for years and years.
No simple answer for sure. Brad Melke, thanks for checking in.
Thank you.
All right, 6:24.